When I turned 18, my fake ID had expired, and I was figuring out how am I going to go to this gay bar.
Mm.
So to use my new ID, my brilliant plan was I was going to go in drag. So that's kind of how Eureka was born.
Uh-huh.
Was So I started going out in drag, and I started, I became Eureka, this character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I went from one character to another. And I immediately started doing so I started doing drag when I was like almost 19, probably full time.
Yeah, you told me this
Yeah.
great story. Can you share it with us here about being in drag on stage for the first time and what the performance was?
Yeah, it was, excuse me. It was insane, actually. I was so nervous and terrified. I had made this little dress, and I had my little purse, and I had walked out on stage, and I did Pedestal by Fergie. I'll never forget. And I froze up, and I stood in the middle of the stage, and I couldn't move. And the whole crowd, though, started cheering for me and, flitting like, yeah, Eureka, Eureka. And it was just such an exhilarating moment, and just to get that much love and that much appreciation in a moment, I was addicted,
Yeah.
Right.
And then on top of it, all the glamour, right? And the money, getting thrown money and then being adored all night. I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I also grew up with sisters, and a mom, and I always wanted to be more of the girl than the boy. So it was like, drag just seemed so right for me, getting to express that feminine side I had to like harbor my whole life because I was the man of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you're going to make somebody a great husband one day. You're so wonderful. You're so amazing. You're going to make such a good dad. You're, and having that pound in your head your whole time you grow up, you're like, well, actually,
yeah. All
I'm
these
gonna
expectations.
I'm going to be a lovely other mother.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
What are the ways that, like, overall, like when you kind of just like look at what your existence was, especially growing up, kind of the most formative years of your life, like what are the most significant ways that you felt other, that you stood out the most, or that were the most challenging for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely my femininity and my size.
Mm-hmm.
My size for sure. I've always been big and tall, plus sized, tall, too big for the world, really. And then, really gay. I've always been, very feminine. Other ways that I stood out was wanting to achieve success. That was actually something that really hurt me along the way too. As much as it was a way for me to extract myself, it was like what made me a target sometimes.
Right.
Being good at things or getting to be in charge, things like that. Also, just being curious and staring a lot. I was a starer, so I would always like have a crush on a boy.
I would,
and I would just stare and stare, and that boy would end up being the only bully for the next 3 years because I would never stop staring at him. And I was okay with it because I love the attention from him.
My husband's always busting me on that. He's like, "You're staring," because when I think people are interesting, I'm literally like, "What's this about?"
Oh, me too. I can't help it.
Yeah. But it sounds to me as if like all the pieces, it's like when drag is where all of the things that you perceived as liabilities become assets.
Yeah.
All the things that worked against you now work in your favor in doing the thing that drag requires of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like you were saying earlier, I, got to slip in and hear some of your all's conversation about you talking about, being a people pleaser or being, accommodating to others as far as like wanting to make them laugh, wanting to cheer them on, wanting to be that person. Of course, I was the one that talked too much in class or was too loud or always telling the joke or always, trying to service people around me to like almost feel like I deserve the place I have in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, and that's what we do to ourselves, and eventually it's really hard on you because it really diminishes your self-worth. I think that's where we come into our adulthood, like, seeking so much validation and reassurance.
Yes,
absolutely.
It sounds as if you're absolutely cognizant of that. That you were. When did you arrive at that understanding?
Yeah, I mean, I still deal with it every day. I don't think it's a thing that I can get rid of because it's a huge part of who I am. I'm just such a caretaker because that's where I found value in myself in this world. And I enjoy it. I enjoy taking care of people, but I've had to learn to be mindful of not taking care of everyone, and not everyone wants to be taken care of, or not everyone needs saving, because you can really run into a problem there too, when you're trying to be the savior.
Especially
that's your thing, Matt.
Especially when you're putting other people's needs ahead of your own. That's like the best kind of gauge on it, right?
Yeah, Matt's talked a lot on the show. Matt, we were talking a couple weeks ago about that's where your validation came from in being a solver and a helper.
Yeah, it was a great way to deflect from people looking at me, was just like how much I can take care of everybody else and what everybody else was going through. And I've even made a career out of it. So it's like it happens. And like you said, Eureka, it's like you can be aware of it. It's never fully going to go away, but we can be aware of it enough that we can manage it so that it doesn't kind of like take hold as much as it usually maybe has defensively.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, but at the same time, doesn't it make, and I can say this now because I used to not be able to say this about myself, but doesn't it just make us special people and just a little bit better than some others? You know what I mean? As far as having a good attitude, some people just aren't great people, and I at least appreciate that about myself now, is that makes us good people, and that's okay.